Hello and welcome to Weekly MTG. I'm your host, Blake Rasmussen. Co-host Steve is off this week, but that's okay because the real stars of the show are to my right. We have Melissa DeTora and Andrew Brown, both from R&D. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Yeah, you pretty excited about Guilds of Ravnica?
Super excited
Very
for Guilds of
excited.
Ravnica, yeah.
When did you guys start working on the set?
Since the beginning of,
Time?
yeah, pretty much.
Yes, about a year and a half ago.
A year and a half ago?
Yeah.
Okay. So then you must be pretty excited to share the mechanics. So what we're doing today, we're not showing any Guilds of Ravnica cards. But this is the first place you're going to get a look at the mechanics of all 5 guilds. And then after that, we're going to run through the guild kits. For anyone who doesn't know what the guild kits are, these are not standard legal decks that collect a bunch of cool cards from each of the guilds in Guilds of Ravnica across all of Ravnica, from the original Ravnica to Return to Ravnica, and including our Return to Ravnica.
Guilds of Ravnica.
Guilds of Ravnica. So you'll be able to get, for example, a Golgari guild kit, and it'll have some cards from the new set, it'll have some cards from the original set, and you'll just play a Golgari deck against the Izzet deck or the Boros deck or whatever. So we'll get to that, and then we're going to have a little fun with the pronunciation guide. Ravnica's full of words that are not necessarily easy. They don't just roll off the tongue.
Not really, not really.
Yeah, so Melissa's going to help us out with that, and
Good luck to me.
yeah. And then at the end of the stream, we'll be answering your questions. So we've got some questions from the internets already. But if you have questions along the way, put them into chat. And then my good friend who's up moderating chat will be feeding them to me. And then I'll ask them of them. And it'll be this whole symbiotic circle after they give you the answers. But let's start with the Guilds of Ravnica mechanics. And we're going to start with the only returning mechanic.
The only returning mechanic.
What is this first mechanic, Andrew?
All right, so the first returning mechanic we have, the only
Only
returning mechanic
we have.
is going to be Convoke. So, you know, in the storyline, Ravnica is in peril right now. Everybody's questioning what's going on, and the guilds are kind of closing up within each other. So Convoke is the Selesnya guild just kind of closing its doors. We're only going to work with our Selesnya friends, only green and white Convoke allowed. So Melissa, what does Convoke do?
All right, well, so as you can see on the screen, Convoke says your creatures can help you pay for an expensive spell by tapping a creature for 1 mana. And we've seen Convoke before plenty of times. We all know how it plays. And we wanted to do something a little different with Guilds of Ravnica, so there's a slightly new take on Convoke. Instead of just like playing your creatures, tapping them, playing a giant guy, we now have a few Convoke rewards. So for example, there might be a card that says, whenever you Convoke, do a thing for each time a creature convoked it, right?
Sure.
So if you tap 4 creatures, you get to do that thing 4 times. I don't know what that thing is. You'll have to find out.
You do know what that thing is.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We're
know
going to
what
spend
it
this
is,
entire
but-
show trying not to give things away. So far, so good.
Great,
Yeah.
great.
Now, this is the 3rd time we've seen Convoke, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
What's besides that, what's different from the last time we saw it when it was in a core set?
So previously in M15, Convoke was in every single color. It was in blue, black, red. But here in Guilds of Ravnica, it's only the Selesnya guild which is convoking its cards.
Okay. Okay. Let's look at our second mechanic now, and this is the Boros mechanic. Melissa, what do we have on tap for Boros here?
All right, so Boros is the aggressive guild. They're all about attacking. So here we have Mentor. So Mentor means when a creature with Mentor attacks, it can give another attacking creature with lesser power +1/+1 counter. So it's like you're helping out you're mentoring someone.
Right, so if a 3/1 attacked with a 2/2, then the attacking 2/2 would get a +1/+1 counter, making it a 3/3. So as I said earlier about the guilds kind of, sticking to themselves more, this is the Boros really trying to, teach up the younger recruits, the younger soldiers, to get them into fighting strength.
And it's still a very aggressive mechanic that keeps you wanting to attack and go, go.
It only works when attacking. So so if you're playing Boros, you want to attack. If you're blocking, you're probably not winning that game.
All right, let's move on to the Dimir mechanic. What do we have here, Andrew?
So the Dimir mechanic is called Surveil. In our internal testing, we called it Graveyard Scribe, but essentially what it is it's Scribe, but instead of putting the card on the bottom of your library, you can put it on your graveyard. And this is really to signify the Dimir kind of looking at everybody while there's a lot of turmoil going on. So you're definitely going to see the Dimir spies everywhere in Guilds of Ravnica. But Melissa, how does Surveil kind of synergize with other cards?
All right, so Surveil is a card filtering mechanic, so it kind of like, as a Dimir player, it lets you feel kind of clever. It's like, all right, let me plan out my next few turns. Also, since the card's going into your graveyard instead of on the bottom of your library, it enables some graveyard synergies that you might see.
Now, Andrew, before the show, we were talking a little bit about this mechanic similarity to Scry. Can you talk a little bit about why you do these mechanics and return mechanics like Convoke in a set like this that keeps the complexity low?
Right, so in Guilds of Ravnica and most Ravnica sets, we split up the guilds per set. So in Guilds of Ravnica, there are 5 different guilds, and given that there's 5 guilds, there has to be 5 mechanics. So generally, we want to like pare down the complexity of a mechanic so that more players can understand the entirety of the set as a whole. Because, you know, there's Izzet, there's Golgari, there's Dimir, there's Boros, there's Selesnya. You have to remember all these mechanics. So the easier the mechanics are to understand, the less complexity there is as a whole.
Okay. So Surveil works pretty well with the next 2 mechanics that we're going to talk about.
They might.
They might. The Izzet mechanic, this one's my favorite, because of course it is.
Because it's Izzet.
Because it is Izzet.
Who doesn't love Izzet?
Everyone loves Izzet.
I'll let you do the Izzet puns, it's fine.
Okay. Well, why don't we start with Melissa? What do we have from Izzet?
All right, so for Izzet, we have Jumpstart. So this is a mechanic that allows you to play instants and sorceries with Jumpstart from your graveyard by discarding a card. So it's kind of like Flashback. You may play this card from your graveyard if you discard a card as an additional cost, and the Jumpstart card gets removed. So it's like a way to cast a lot of, like a flurry of spells and like have some really cool synergies, but playing a lot of spells in one turn and stuff like that.
Okay. And why this mechanic, Andrew?
Well, as I said, you know, Ravnica's kind of in turmoil right now, and I don't know, the Izzet are just always experimenting.
Yeah.
That's just what they do, right?
Just all the time.
That's all
Right.
they do.
Okay. And so how does this one play well with Surveil?
So you can definitely cast Jumpstart cards out of your graveyard. So when you are surveilling and looking at these cards on the top of your library, you can just put them into your graveyard as extra fuel and gas for you.
Okay. So are these on spells? They aren't on creatures or anything like that,
They're
are
only on spells.
Only
yeah.
on spells. Okay, so they have a very spell-focused mechanic.
And they can be on instants and sorceries too.
Okay, great. And then let's look at our 5th mechanic. This is for the Golgari. Golgari fans out there, get ready. Undergrowth. Undergrowth is the Golgari. It's not really a mechanic, it's more of a keyword, right?
Yeah.
Right, yeah, so Undergrowth, it gives you a bonus for the number of creatures you have in your graveyard, so it's like a scaling reward. The more creatures you have in your graveyard, the stronger your Undergrowth card is. And one of the coolest things about it is how well it works with other mechanics in the set. So when you surveil, you can just dump creatures into your graveyard to fuel your Undergrowth, and like even Jumpstart, you cast your Jumpstart card, discard your creature, and then now your Undergrowth gets better.
Okay.
Yeah, and since the Golgari are always, you know, they're just counting the dead. But especially right now in a turmoil-heavy Ravnica, the Golgari are, they're counting them up. They're making sure they have enough resources for the impending conflict.
Yeah, and this mechanic's a little bit different than the others, and there's not actual rules behind Undergrowth. Undergrowth is just kind of a signifier that says, count the number of creatures in your graveyard, and then you'll do something.
Something awesome.
That something is different
Yep.
depending on. Yep, that makes sense.
Exactly.
Okay, which of these mechanics is your favorite?
Should I go first?
Yeah, you go first.
I like Jumpstart. I really like the way Izzet plays. Like it just cares about casting spells. Like so, there are cards that might say every time you cast a non-creature spell, do a thing. You know, so and like this just gives you 2 spells. Also, it gives you something to do with your excess lands to like mitigate mana flood and stuff. Just like I mana flooded. Oh wait, but I have all these sweet spells in my graveyard that I can just cast for value.
Okay.
I think I gotta say my favorite mechanic's Surveil, just because there's no better feeling than getting a free card when you Surveil and you put a Jumpstart card in your graveyard, you put a creature in your graveyard for Undergrowth. It's just so much value.
It feels really good. I like
all packed into one.
playing the Izzet and Dimir mechanics together.
Yeah.
That's great.
Ooh, another sweet thing is discarding a Jumpstart spell to a Jumpstart spell, so you can Jumpstart your Jumpstart when you're Jumpstarting.
Okay, In case you like jump starting?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. So it sounds like Surveil is probably maybe the spikiest of the mechanics. Is that
Yeah.
accurate?
Yep.
Okay. Is there one that you had more fun playing with?
Oh, definitely. I really love playing the green-white Convoke deck in
Okay.
Limited the most because, everybody's, they're being schemy, they're jump starting, they're doing all these fancy things, and I'm just like, everything's sideways, and here's my largest creature. Your turn.
So we have a question from chat from Variant Human. With these mechanics, would it be correct to call Guilds of Ravnica a graveyard set?
No, I wouldn't say so. There's the Boros Guild, makes you want to have creatures in play. Convoke wants you to have creatures in play. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of angles going on there.
And it sounds like Convoke and Undergrowth just sort of both reward you for having creatures.
Exactly.
Eventually, they end up in your graveyard, but maybe not. But yeah, there's a lot of. It sounds like there are a lot of cool synergies between the different guilds.
Yeah, one of the biggest difficulties when designing like a Ravnica set with 5 different guilds is making sure that they all kind of play together. And yeah, that's what some of the Guilds of Ravnica mechanics do.
Now, when you were testing Future Standard, were there any of these guilds or not these guilds, these mechanics that particularly popped for you, that you built decks around or that you paid close attention to?
Yeah, so I mean, as I already said, Izzet is super fun, so definitely Izzet. And I built a lot of Convoke decks as well, because Convoke is doing has a little bit more depth than previous Convoke cards that have already been printed.
Okay. Yeah, because Convoke has not. I can count maybe on one hand how many Convoke cards have been tournament playable. We've got Court of Calling, of course.
Court of Calling was the one that jumped out to me, but I don't.
Stoke the Flames?
Stoke the Flames.
Oh, Stoke the Flames.
Right.
A red card.
Yeah, a red card.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're feeling extra spicy, there's Chief Engineer, one of my favorites.
Some people did occasionally play that in tournaments, yeah. Okay, I got another question from chat. Is Surveil always going to be one card, or will there be cards with Surveil 2 or 3, for example?
Yes, there will be. Surveil, it can go up to any number you want. But yeah, we have tons of cards in the set with Surveil 1, Surveil 2, Surveil 3.
What's the highest it goes in the set?
I'm not going to reveal that number.
Okay. Is it higher than 3?
Wait, we can't reveal the number.
Okay, fair enough.
Nice try, Blake.
They're going to have to wait.
Thanks.
The old self-sabotage. Good move.
Yeah. I'm testing you guys. I'm seeing if you've been paying attention. You passed. Good job.
Thank you.
All right, so that we will come back. If you have more questions about the mechanics, we'll come back to those questions at the end, so feel free to keep dropping them in chat. For now, we're going to move on to a little bit of a preview of the guild kits. So, the cards we're going to show you, I want to be very clear.
Very clear.
Very clear. The cards we're about to show you are not going to be standard legal. So the reason for doing this is so that the guild kits contain all kinds of sweet cards.
Exactly.
Cards from past Ravnicas that maybe are too powerful for some formats that are even more powerful than standard. Who knows? We'll get to that in a second. But the way we thought it'd be a fun way to show you these by doing a live M-Files. Melissa, you've done some of these M-Files things. What is it M-Files for those who don't know?
Okay, so M-Files, first of all, M stands for Multiverse, which is our old card database. We don't have Multiverse anymore. Now our card database is called Drake, but M-Files was a cool enough name, so the name kind of stuck. But anyway, this is like every Magic card in existence is in this database, and the cards that are currently in design, we go and read the cards, make comments on them and stuff, and it's a way to communicate with set leads and people on the team of our thoughts about the cards. This, of course, is not the only way we communicate with thoughts about of our thoughts on the cards, but it's just one of the many.
Okay. So we're going to do a little live M-Files, and as part of it, every one of the cards that we're going to be commenting on and looking up the comments for is going to be in one of these guild kits. So let's start with maybe the most powerful card in all of the guild kits. We've certainly banned it in enough formats.
Enough formats.
Enough formats. Let's take a look at our first preview card from the Golgari Guild kit, Deathrite Shaman. So these were the comments. I left the names off of these to protect the guilty or innocent. So Deathrite Shaman was for a time a 1/1 and became a 1/2. ability changes from Eric. Now deals in life, loss, or gain. I guess it was maybe damage beforehand. None of us were here at that
Yeah,
time.
we have
so
no
we
idea
have
what it used to do.
And then an activated ability with 2 different targets is a little awkward. This is referring to exiling target thing in a graveyard, or exiling target spell in a graveyard, and then apparently dealing 2 damage, or target player loses 2 life.
Right,
yeah. And so that's why it went to each opponent. None of the comments were about this being terribly busted in so many
Well, it
formats.
wasn't terribly busted in Standard.
It was not terribly busted in Standard. Talk a little bit about where this card has seen play.
I played it a lot in Modern, Modern Jund, because it has like a really good synergy with fetch lands. So,
Really? You don't say.
So instead of playing a Birds of Paradise, instead you can play a 1/2 creature that can add mana early in the game, and then late in the game it can win.
Yeah.
You don't even need to attack.
So one of my favorite memories with Deathrite Shaman is when I tried playing Legacy for the first time, and I got in a Deathrite Shaman fight, where it really depends on who uses their Deathrite Shaman first, and I felt very unequipped after my opponent used his Deathrite Shaman.
That was a flaw
response.
of the card for sure. The mirrors were just not fun.
Yeah, and after that I tried to cast Brainstorm and also failed at that, so that was my foray into Legacy. It didn't really go very good.
Okay, well, we banned Deathrite Shaman from Legacy, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. You can still play it in Vintage. You can still play it in Commander, Canadian Highlander, if you party that way.
Do you party that way?
I do party that way.
Okay,
I have
all right.
3 Canadian Highlander decks. Yeah, no, I enjoy that.
All right.
Yeah. And of course, you can play it in these guild kits. They're all kind of built to play against each other, so this card will definitely play pretty well in that one. But let's look at the next card from the Golgari deck. This one has not been banned in any formats, but it was pretty powerful in its day in Standard. Lotlith Troll. Removed lifelink, put back on trample, regenerate to be, added discard outlet. They clearly did a lot with this card. This card has a ton of abilities for 2 mana. How good was this back in the day in Standard?
All right, so I played a lot of this actually. One of my favorite decks in this Standard was the Mulch Reanimator deck.
Oh yeah, that was so much fun.
Yeah. So you just get a lot of stuff in your graveyard with like Mulch, and like this card is a good discard outlet too. And then you play Unburial Rites and reanimate like your Craterhoof Behemoth and just win that turn.
Or your Thrag Tusk.
Yeah,
It
I did
depends.
reanimate that sometimes. It was mostly Angel of Serenity is what I reanimated a lot. It's
that
just
was
like
a pretty good one.
it's like, oh, you have creatures. All right, well here's this angel. Now you have no more creatures.
My favorite thing with this card was I would always ask my opponent, so how many creatures do you have in your hand? And then I'd respond for them, oh, they probably have a lot left.
Ah, nice.
He didn't run that joke by me before the stream. I might have nixed it, but it's okay. He's still staring at the camera. Let's move on to our next card from the Golgari deck. So we're showing off roughly 3 cards from every deck. So this is the 3rd one that we're showing off from the Golgari deck. This one's more of a commander card, Savra, Queen of the Golgari. And then the comments here, dev changes, effect of second ability was each other player sacrifices a creature. First ability made optional, and then the mana cost and the power and toughness were tinkered with a bunch. Now, how much, when you guys are crafting cards that you want people to play with that are cool, how often do you guys tinker just like 1 mana here, 1 power toughness here?
Oh, so much
lot.
right now. Yeah, with the inception of the play design team, we really have a lot more play testing resources. So we're definitely changing cards by 1, taking off a toughness, adding a power. There's so many tiny knobs on cards that we really like to turn them a lot, given that we have so many resources now.
So when someone's doing this, because this is just the same person commenting over and over again, dev changes mana cost from 1 BG, dev changes mana cost from 2 BG. Is that just tinkering around and seeing what works? Is there something intentional behind it? What's the story there?
Normally we do it kind of by committee, so I'll talk with Melissa, we'll come up with a solution, we'll pitch it to whoever's leading the set, and then we'll make the change and then play test more with it and report back.
Okay.
I imagine that this set of changes on this card happened over a longer period of time, like maybe it changed from 1 BG, and then a few days later it changed to something else, and they play test more like, oh, this is a little too weak, let's change it, give it a toughness, play it more. Oh, now this is a little too strong out of mana. Is what it looks like happened here.
Yep. Okay. So let's move on to at least some of our favorites.
Wait, but another thing I want to mention.
Oh,
about
there's
Sabra,
more? Okay.
Yeah. We got that awesome new frame on it that it didn't have.
That's
in
true.
original
That is the
Ravnica.
first time with the legendary frame.
Very cool.
And we've got, that is not the last one of those we're going to show off.
Not the last
It is
Ooh,
not the
spoilers.
last one. Spoilers for about 2.5, 3 minutes at least. Let's look at the next card, which is in the Is It deck. I love this comment. Are we still okay with this at rare? I don't mind. So Char, Char came from somewhere. This was not the first card that looked like this. Where was this coming from?
Yeah, so this is a color-shifted Psionic Blast. And I remember like being younger and seeing Psionic Blast for the first time, and like my mind was blown, and also you could only
So was
see
his.
this.
That was
Yeah, actually,
ignore-
that's a really
yeah,
good
yeah.
point. Like that person's mind was definitely blown. But like also like this card, I only saw versions in like Alpha, Beta, or Unlimited, and I was not playing Magic back then. So the only time I ever saw this deal 4 damage spell was on an older card. So I didn't think a card like it could ever exist again. And then I saw Char, and I was like, it's Psionic Blast, and I was so amazed.
My favorite thing about Char is it created that awesome moment where Randy Buehler was calling the semifinals of the Pro Tour, and you know him and Mike Flores were talking about where to point the Char, what to do it at, and then you know you just got to char the face sometimes.
Sometimes you just got to char the face. That's the if you want to look it up on YouTube, that's the Lightning Helix moment.
Yep.
Char is the less famous portion of that, but actually that was the decision that mattered.
That was the huge decision there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes you gotta
When you're
trust.
playing red spells, you just go for the face.
Yeah, you
Right?
just gotta
kill creatures.
You gotta
No.
trust your deck.
Yeah, this is not a removal spell, everyone. This is 1/5 of your opponent's life total and 1/10 of yours. So
Did you do the math there?
Did I? Maybe.
Yeah, checks out.
Okay, thank you. I don't know what I'm saying on the air half the time. Next up, the next one is a removal spell. Sometimes it's a burn spell, but I'm counting this as a removal spell. This is one of my favorite cards. This is Electrolyte. I've played this card so many times. But Electrolyte, yeah. So the one comment is changed from shock to fire. So this describes the ability changing from deal 2 damage to a target to deal 1 damage and 1 damage. This card has seen a ton of play, and not just in Standard.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite cards in all these guild kits. Like, it's super sweet. I've been playing it since the beginning. Played it in Block Constructed. First picked it in Limited all the time. I love that it deals 1 and 1 damage because it's very unlikely that you're going to miss drawing a card with it. It's like, are they going to remove their target? And I'll just target them. You know?
Yeah, one of my favorite decks in Modern is the Jeskai Control deck. And you know that deck plays some amount of Electrolytes. It's fluctuated from 2 to 3.
Yeah, somewhere
on a
there.
Sunday it'll be 2. On Monday it'll be 4.
It's rarely 4 these days, but 2, 3 is pretty common.
Yeah, but there's no better feeling than getting a Birds, getting a Noble Hierarch, and drawing a card.
Yeah.
How do you lose at that point?
I don't know. It's impossible.
I mean, this is, so going back to my Canadian Highlander promo spot that I apparently am doing, is, it's a really high-powered format. I have a Grixis control deck. I play Library of Alexandria in that deck, and Demonic Tutor, and all these busted cards. I also play Electrolyze. It's just that good. So you can pick it up now in your, not now, later in your guild kits. Let's look at the next card from the Is It deck. This guy's going to look familiar.
Yeah, he's pretty popular.
Yeah,
I've heard him
this
before.
is that legendary frame that we were talking about. I love this commentary. I hope this is placeholder flavor text. Unfortunately, no. This is what the creative team thinks math looks like. I love this flavor text so much. And so does the community. This is some of the most famous flavor text we've ever printed.
Yeah, this card's super popular. Most Is It decks have in Commander have this as the commander because there are just so many infinite combos with this card. Like,
it's a little broken with curiosity.
Yeah, like
a little bit.
Yeah,
A little bit.
Yeah, that's the thing. I remember when I first saw this card, I was just like, oh my god, is Curiosity just like a win in Extended? But it turns out it was like not that good in Extended.
Yeah. There's that whole part where you have to resolve your 6 mana creature.
4/4.
And then untap with it, and then you have to resolve a spell, hope they don't have removal.
It sure looks nice on paper though.
I mean, it looks really nice on paper. Here,
Looks nice on cardboard.
it does look nice on cardboard.
Very nice.
Because it's got the new legendary frame, which is the first time we've done Nib Mizzet that way.
And that awesome Is It watermark.
Yep, and you will see watermarks are going to be a feature of not only the guild kits, but also of Guilds of Ravnica.
Exactly.
So, spoiler alert. Not really. Let's go on to, okay. Apparently we're getting a lot of, this is Tolsmir Wolfblood. We're getting a lot of questions in chat about, are these cards standard legal? Let me re-emphasize. None of the cards we are showing you today are standard legal.
None of them.
None of them. Not any of them. They're in a reprint, cool, play against your friends kind of guild kit thing. They are not, however, standard legal.
Think of it like a dual deck. You just buy a pre-constructed deck that has all these like sweet, powerful cards. Then you can play against your friends who bought a different deck.
Yeah.
In that
exactly.
series.
You'll battle the Golgari deck against the Izzet deck, against the Dimir deck, and you'll have a blast doing so. Let's talk about Tolsmir Wolfblood, though. So Tolsmir is in the Celestia deck, and apparently kicks Stang's butt. Who's Stang?
Oh, I know Stang.
You know Stang?
Yeah, I
Who's
know
Stang?
him. He's like a really expensive red-green creature.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's maybe a 5-mana 3/4 or something.
Yeah.
When he enters the battlefield, you create a token copy that is of him.
Mm-hmm.
And then if either one of them ever leaves the battlefield, the other one just dies.
Yep. Yeah, and this one, Tolsmir, meanwhile, makes a friend, and then if the friend dies, he just,
You just
makes
make another friend.
Yeah.
Infinite friends. What is it like, Tolsmir?
And it just so happens. He's also, I've seen some people use this as a commander because it buffs your entire team on both the green side and the white side. And of course, it's got the cool new legendary frame as well.
Yeah, love it, love it.
Yeah. Now, the next Celestia card is a card with quite the pedigree, Glare of Subdual. This was apparently 2WG question mark. I don't know if that's we should change it or I guess based on the next comment, Dev changes mana cost from 1 GW to 2 GW. Thank goodness, because playing against this card in a format with Birds of Paradise, which is when it existed,
Yikes.
would have been trouble. So this card was a terror in Standard. What was this card then?
Yeah, so it was very strong in Standard. You had to just play main deck enchantment removal to beat it, really, or just play not a creature strategy, but it was not the most fun card to play against. But at least it was not opposition, though.
I remember people main decking Seed Spark at the time,
Yep.
especially for the mirror. Yeah. Seed Spark, for those who don't know, was a white spell that could destroy an artifact or enchantment, and if you paid green mana as part of the 4 mana, you'd get 2 Saproling tokens, which just happened to go well with your own Glare of Subdual.
Ooh, yeah, I would not really enjoy a Glare of Subdual mirror match.
No, I believe that deck won Worlds that year. Ghazi Glare was what the deck was called.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It used V2
V2
Ghazi,
Ghazi
which
to
was a
make
land
tokens.
that could make
Yep.
Saprolings, and then it would go all the way up to Yosei the Morningstar, actually, and sometimes sacrifice that to try to tap down your opponent. It was not fun to play against.
Oh, I bet.
It was a bit of a thing. Let's move on to another legendary creature. This one of the Boros Guild. In fact, at one point, Aurelia was the leader of the Boros Guild. I actually don't know at what point that is, but Aurelia has cool new art, cool new frame.
Yeah, it looks sweet.
And according to the comments, cool new powers. This is back when things were powers. So new powers.
Abilities. It had powers.
It had powers. Well, its original power was when card name enters the battlefield, you may return each creature card with converted mana cost 2 or less in your graveyard to the battlefield. They gain haste until end of turn. That is very different than what it ended up being. The next comment is Godo texted. So that's Godo text. Godo Bandit Warlord.
Godo Bandit Warlord, right?
Was the one that would attack and then untap. It was basically Relentless Assault, so it would give you a second attack step in that turn, which is now what Aurelia does. Godo text to first time to eliminate infinite combos so that you can't get multiple attack steps in a turn.
Pesky infinite combos.
Yep. And then there's this comment in here, added vigilance, moved from 5/4 to 3/4 to make it white. What do you guys make of that comment?
So one of the things that we do when we're designing multicolor cards is we have to make sure that each color is represented kind of in the card design itself. So I would imagine that their thinking at the time was like, oh, this could just be a mono red card. There's nothing really white about it at this point. So the 5/4 to 3/4 is to make it a little more white.
Gotcha.
Adding the vigilance as well. Because on a mono red card, flying is okay on like a dragon or a phoenix or something. So they probably looked at it and was like, can we just print a dragon with this text, right? So they probably just made it a little smaller, added vigilance. Now it feels more like a white card.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to another Boros card. And Melissa, I know you've had a lot of experience with this next Boros card.
Oh yeah, sure.
Boros Reckoner.
I do have a lot of experience with Boros Reckoner. So the Pro Tour that I top 8'd was Pro Tour Gatecrash, and one of the most popular decks was Jeskai that played 4 copies of this, and it was just like a value 2-for-1 deck, just like kind of mid-rangey. So I played against my fair share of Boros Reckoners. I remember one time I think Jerry Thompson tried to kill me by playing this card called Harvest Pyre. So Harvest Pyre, it's you can exile cards from your graveyard, and for each card exiled, you can deal X damage to a creature. So you just target this creature and try and like deal a lot of damage to your opponent. But it did not work out very well because I was gaining 1,000,000 life with Thragtusk.
And that's actually the comments on Boros Reckoner kind of portented that. Can't wait to Blasphemous Act with this guy.
Yep.
Oof, yeah.
Lot of people
That's
did that.
13 damage to the face.
Yeah, I also enjoyed this part of the comments. Why does a creature that wants to be dealt damage gain first strike? And the response was the threat. So your opponent has to block it with more stuff in order to kill it, in which case its controller won't first strike. How often do you guys put that? I mean, that's several levels deep on how this gameplay is going to be. How often are you guys thinking about that on cards like this?
Yeah, normally we try to think about that with cards that we think we'll see play in Standard, because we definitely want to deliver to the player playing Standard who wants that high level of mastery in those deep, interesting games.
Yeah. Okay.
And I have another note.
Ooh, more?
More notes.
Okay.
So Boros Reckoner is a hybrid card. So
Sure.
one of our rules when designing hybrid cards is to make sure that it can either be a mono red card or a mono white card. So First Strike is one of those abilities that can port over to red and white.
Okay. How is the, obviously you guys weren't around when this card was designed, but how is the damage redirection white flavored?
White does damage redirection, but it doesn't usually do it to the opponent's face. So I'm not sure this follows the rule of hybrid cards.
Not to a T.
But it's pretty cool, so
But things were way different back then.
We did get the question if hybrid and or split cards are returning for GRN. That's a great question
That is an excellent question.
that we're not going to answer.
That's a great question.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's great.
you'll find out. Yeah. The next card that we're going to look at, again, I'd like to reemphasize these cards are not legal in Standard. Legion Loyalist is the next Boros card. So this went through a lot of changes. Right now it's a 1/1 with Battalion. It started off 4 mana to 1/1, +2 to +1 and trample. This guy seems way over the curve. Most games he came out 4 to 6 power, and the team tramples for 1 mana. Cut haste, added can't be blocked by tokens, gave him haste, and then cut the +1/+0 bonus. Probably needs templating help, templated, blah, blah, blah. So 4 mana to 1 mana.
Yeah, definitely one of the one of the bigger changes. Sometimes you'll kind of see this when we're making in some of the M-Files comments where, we're not really happy with the design and we just kind of like put our foot on the gas and don't really stop.
Okay.
Just to kind of see where it is at the moment.
How far you can push it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So from reading these comments, I'm thinking that this card used to be a 4 mana haste card that gave itself +1/+0 for each creature you controlled. Just by reading the comments and the changes. That's what it looks like it did to me.
Okay. So when balancing a card like this, do you already have in mind we want this to be a turn? Because this saw tournament play. It didn't see Electrolyte's level of tournament play, but it saw tournament play and still occasionally sees play in Modern Goblins. Do you already have a card like this pegged as we want this to be a tournament card and then you tweak the numbers that way? Or do you start playing with it and then decide you want chicken egg kind of question, I guess?
Well, like I would say like years ago, yeah, that was the case. It was like, here are these cards that we are targeting at Standard. Like one example of when I was here was during Eldritch Moon Emrakul. Face of the set, got to make sure it's Standard, got to make sure it's awesome. But with the play design team, we kind of changed our philosophy about that. Like now we just play test decks, figure out what's fun, what looks fun, and then we just make the fun cards awesome, and if anything is not fun, like we'll make it a little not as awesome, so it doesn't show up in high-level tournament play.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely a philosophy shift. Generally, when we're starting the FFL process or testing new standard cards, we kind of put everything at the rate that we think would about show up, and then from there we either go up or down based on how fun the card is to play.
Okay. Next, we're going to take a look at. We're only looking at one Dimir card today because
They're secretive.
they're secretive. There weren't a ton of comments. There actually were not comments.
Which guild?
Dimir. They're known. Everyone knows who they are. We've done the joke, Andrew. Nightveil Spectre is our next card. It was actually kind of ironic that Dimir was the guild where most of the cards that are in the guild kit, they just didn't have comments on them. Apparently nobody wanted to admit that they were, new card, change to hybrid, change to HHH, so that means hybrid mana cost. Apparently somebody thought it was awesome, another person thought it was cool. And then now a 2/3, so it can survive a Lingering Souls better. So I'm guessing this card was a 2/2 at first. And then again, at the bottom you see 2/3 to 3/3, 3/3 to 3/2, 3/2 to 2/3. Life is circular.
Yep.
Yeah, this looks a lot like the last comments part looks a lot like how our current dev comments look. But yeah, it seems like they play tested this card a lot, and those are the numbers that they kind of came to.
Okay, Melissa, where did this card see play?
In 2 different decks actually. So it's a hybrid card. It can be in a mono blue deck or a mono black deck or a blue black deck, but it was mostly in mono blue and mono black.
And it was kind of under the radar when Return to Ravnica was out.
Oh yeah, it did not see any play in that standard at all, but it wasn't until Devotion became a thing and Theros. And then it was like, well, this has 3 pips for Devotion, so it just became a super strong 3-mana card for either of the Devotion decks.
Yep. Yeah, so it was a standard where you'd see like a blue deck that randomly has a swamp and a pack rat in play for some reason, or a black deck that had an island and a Thassa because that's what they hit.
Wow, Thassa was a
good hit.
Make my Desecration Demon unblockable.
Yes. As if that card needed any help. We're going to look at 2 more cards that do not have any comments with them. They didn't have any comments, but they're cool, powerful cards, and I wanted to show them to you. Abrupt Decay and Loxodon Hierarch. So these are obviously in the Golgari and the Celestia decks, and both have seen more than their fair share of play.
Yeah, definitely a huge fan of Abrupt Decay. I really enjoyed the Can't Be Countered cycle in Return to Ravnica, and most of those cards saw lots of play in many different formats. So the Selesnya version was Loxodon Smiter, the Rakdos version was Slaughter Games, Abrupt Decay was the Golgari one, Azorius had Supreme Verdict, and the
counter spell?
Oh, right. The Is It one was Counterflux.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Overload counter spell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just missed the cut in my Grixis Highlander deck, in case you were wondering.
Okay. Yeah, I was.
I know everyone out there was eagerly anticipating updates on that deck.
Are you writing updates for your deck?
No. We are later. So there was a conversation on Twitter about what decks Wizards of the Coast people play, and we had some great suggestions from some Twitter people to put together an article on basically Wizards of the Coast's favorite decks. And you guys both submitted decks. I got yours just before the show.
Yeah, 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, 20 minutes ago. I put mine in there. We've got others from Aaron Forsyth and a couple other people.
Cool.
It'll be a fun article. I have no idea when it's going up yet, but we're working on it. So, so those are all the previews we have for the guild kits. Let me reemphasize, none of those cards are standard legal.
None of them.
None of them are standard legal. Next up, we have our pronunciation guide.
Lovely.
This is fun. So, Guilds of Ravnica has a lot of words that are not necessarily, they don't just roll off the tongue. They're not, they don't just, it's not Birds of Paradise. It's, is it, or...
Is it?
Is it?
Is it?
Is it? We had to
you
get
did that one earlier.
At least.
But I can't help
but we're going to
it.
keep doing it. It rolls off the tongue. Anyway, so we're going to throw some words up on the screen from Guilds of Ravnica and old Ravnica sets. Andrew and I are going to try to pronounce them.
Try.
Melissa knows the actual answer. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Thank you so much to Matt Tavak for telling me all the answers because I definitely wasn't sure on some of them.
Yep. And again, keep putting your questions in chat. We are going to answer them after this segment. First one, I got this one. Boros. That's easy.
You nailed it.
Thanks.
Yep.
How'd we do?
A+.
All right. All right. Next up, we're going to do the guilds first. What do we got next?
Golgari.
Yeah. That
We're
sounds
really
about
good at
right
this
to me.
game.
Golgari.
Thanks.
I should be the Alex Trebek replacement.
You should be. We'll write to somebody about that.
Sounds good.
Is it pronounced? Is it?
Is it? It is pronounced. Is
Okay.
it?
Great. Wonderful.
You know,
I apologize. To
normally when
everyone.
I like to say a pun, I just do it once, and then I deadpan,
And then you
it's
stare
over.
at the camera.
Then it's over, right?
No, Melissa and I are from the Beat a Dead Horse
Okay.
School of Comedy.
Also, is that even true? Like, you're always going around saying which member,
Oh.
which figure, which spell, you know? That happens all the time.
It's dismember, dispel, and
Disfigure?
which Daneful
Wait,
stroke?
Disdainful
Disdainful stroke,
stroke,
exactly.
yeah, okay. Welcome to the weekly MTG Comedy Hour. What do we have next to pronounce? Another guild. Andrew, you can take this one.
Selesnya.
You did it.
Yeah. So this is like it's like a Z sound on that second S.
Yeah,
a little bit of a soft Z.
Selesnya.
Selesnya. Next up, I don't see anything.
I
up there.
don't. What is that?
God,
Where are
we
they?
are not funny people. All right.
Call.
Demir.
Demir.
Demir is
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, cool. All right, so those are the guilds that we're going to cover in this one. We're not going to cover the other 5 guilds. We'll get to that. We'll do another pronunciation.
Wait 3
show.
months.
Yeah. What do we have next here?
This one's you. This one's you.
Me?
Yeah.
Amara.
Amara.
Cool. Legendary character. She had a card.
Had a card.
Had a card.
Guild leader
I mean, still has
or
a card.
just person?
Famous
Famous-
Ravnican.
Famous
Famous
friend of Jace.
Selesnian?
Yeah.
Yeah, good friend
I'll
of
take
Jace.
famous Ravnicans for 200, Blake.
Amara. All right. Who do we have next? This is actually a character we've talked about already.
Aurelia.
Yeah.
My
Aurelia.
favorite
Aurelia.
angel.
Aurelia.
A Boros angel.
Next up is Lazav.
Lazav.
Lazav is correct.
Okay, we're too good at this game.
Yep.
Yeah.
This
one's tougher.
This one's gonna.
Okay.
This is a doozy. I like the quick way. Tajik.
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 Cool.
It's not Tajik.
It's not Tajik.
It's
No.
Tajik.
Tajik.
Just
All right.
say it like how you read it.
Gotcha.
Okay. Next up.
You said this one already.
Oh, we know him.
Nimizit.
Nimizit.
He's our
Nimizit. It
favorite
feels like
infinite
cheating,
combo
yeah.
dragon.
He is our
Yeah.
favorite infinite combo dragon.
Curious.
Next up. Ooh, that's on you.
Isperia.
Yep, you got it.
Isperia.
Asperia.
Isperia. Okay. Short I. Isperia.
Big Sphinx. Head of the Azorius.
Yep. Is he still?
Who knows?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It keeps changing.
It does. Next up, we have Mormir Vig. Mormir Vig?
Mormir-
No.
Momir Vig.
It's Momir Vig.
So do you not?
You're getting
do
tricked.
you not? Oh wait, is it just misspelled?
Yeah, I think that was intentional, Blake. Are you trying to sabotage me again?
I don't even know how to spell it.
Self-sabotage.
That's on
the
me. I
stream.
wrote these. Yep. I'm screwing with you, except I said it.
One of my favorite formats, by the way.
Cares a lot about basic lands. I don't
Yep.
think the actual card
Cares
about
nothing about basic lands.
I think
we
like
both care about creatures.
did it search for a land? I want to say it
search
searched
for creatures.
Creatures.
It searched for
Yeah.
creatures. Okay.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
favorite
So it
thing
doesn't
to
care
do
about basic lands at all then.
Nope.
in Momir is you play a 1-drop and just yell Birds of Paradise, and then you don't get it, and then you pass.
You never get birds. of
You never
paradise.
get Birds
Well, what
of
do you get
Paradise.
instead usually?
Oh, I've got an Ication Money Changer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good one.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway.
A lot of the ones ain't great.
What's next? This next one always trips me up.
Domri Raid.
Is it Raid and not Roddy?
Yeah, it's Domri Raid. This is the one
Raid.
that I wasn't sure of because
Okay.
I've heard Domri, I've heard Domri, I've heard Rod, Raid, Rade, but nope. Domri Raid. That's it.
Domri Raid.
Easy peasy.
Okay. All right. Let's see what we got next. Our elephant friends. Andrew, you got this.
Loxodon.
Loxodon. Yeah.
You can pachyderm a lot of stuff, and
Wow, that was a stretch.
that was
That was a stretch.
not my finest work.
All right, this next one. So these are the insect folks that are part of the Golgari. The crawl?
Crawl.
Crawl? Like you're
Crawl.
crawling on your hands and
Yeah,
knees?
yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Crawl.
All right, all right.
I get it. It's kind of like crawling on your hands.
Maybe that's
They're
why they named it
insects.
that.
Yeah, they do.
Yep, that's-
Okay. I buy it. I buy it. Next up, we have the Ruble Belt.
Ruble Belt.
Ruble Belt.
Easy peasy, Ruble
Yeah.
Belt.
Say it 3 times
Just two
fast.
words.
Ruble Belt, Ruble Belt, Ruble Belt, Ruble Belt.
Okay, that was 4. That was pretty good. The Ruble Belt is it's where
It's on the outskirts of Ravnica. It's
Yeah.
where the Gruul stomp on a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, that sounds about
Okay.
right. Okay, this is tough. This next one's a tough one. Oh, not that one. This one I think I can do. Mizium.
Mizium.
Mizium. Part of my favorite mortars. Great
Part
card.
of my favorite skin care product.
Ooh.
Next up, this is the one I always trip over. Karazda?
Karazda.
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 Okay.
Karazda.
Karazda.
I believe
Alright.
it is a place in the Undercity.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that.
I am quoting. We're recording this.
There are Golgari cards in the past that have had this name in front, like the Karazda Guildmage, right? So
Right.
Golgari related thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Next up, and our last word for the day, Nivix.
Nivix.
Nivix. I think this is also a place.
It's also a place, I think.
Yeah, it is, because there was a land.
There was a
Oh,
land
right,
with the
right,
name
right.
Nivix in it. yeah.
Airy to the fire mind.
Yes.
Lovely.
Yeah, yeah. So that is it for today's pronunciation guide.
Good job, Blake.
I thank you too.
It
Well
was
done.
not
Well
as
done,
hard
yeah.
as I thought it would be.
No, we've been doing this for a while. Let's move on to the Q&A. We've got a bunch of questions, both from before the show and from the Twitch channel right now. We've got about 10 minutes, so keep throwing them in chat. My good friend will keep sending them to me, and I'll keep giving them to them. He'll keep giving you answers, and the circle will continue. So let's see. How will multiple mentor triggers work?
Okay, so let's say that you have a 5-power creature and a 4-power creature, and they both have mentor. So when you go to target, you have to target each one with, it has to be a legal target, and it also the target has to remain legal once it resolves.
Okay.
That is completely accurate.
Okay, so if you, say, had a 5/5 with mentor and a 4/4 with mentor and a 3/3, and you attacked, you'd have to stack the triggers in a way that the
Yeah.
4/4's
So-
mentor resolved
The
first.
5 mentors onto the 4 and the 4 mentors onto
Yeah,
the 3.
but let's say that, for example, you target the 3/3 with both of the triggers, right?
Yep.
And then the 5/5 resolves first, makes it a 4/4. Well, now the 4/4 and the other 4/4, it's no longer true. It's no longer bigger.
Gotcha.
So it will not, the counter will not go on the creature.
So it checks on targeting and resolution. Okay.
Good question.
Will the Golgari mechanic, that's Undergrowth, only buff creature stats, or will it do other things like draw cards or et
It'll
cetera?
do tons of different things.
Okay. No one thing.
No one thing.
Okay. Next question from Montignon. Nice name. Does Ravnica strongly, and I'm assuming they're referring to this Ravnica, strongly encourage players to stick to 2-color decks rather than 3-color combinations?
Well, I mean, that's giving a little away, isn't it? Like,
A little bit.
all right. Well, so here's an answer. Like, as you can see from like what we were talking about with the mechanics, a lot of the mechanics play really nicely with one another. Like Dimir fuels Necrobloom. It fuels the Izzet mechanic.
Undergrowth and Convoke kind of just require you to have a ton of creatures in your
Yep,
deck.
like Boros wants you to have little creatures so you can mentor
Exactly.
onto them. The Selesnya creatures are like naturally little because you play them early and Convoke later.
Yep.
So it's very likely that you'll be playing more than just the 5 guilds. And another thing actually is like if you have a normal draft format, there are 10 color pairs for 8 players in a draft pod, but here there are only 5. So if you think about like having 8 players fight over 5 color pairs, it just doesn't sound very interesting. So like you're going to want to naturally just branch out into like more colors, so you have more
Golgari
options.
splashing Selesnya kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. From Lord of Ironforge, with the guild kits coming out, did you make sure new guild mechanics worked well with older cards from the same guild?
Yeah, like I mean, I didn't personally like build or play test the decks, but I know that the team did make sure that all the mechanics did work nicely with each other.
Okay.
Yeah, I would imagine Dredge works pretty well with Undergrowth.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
This is from Das Stolen Goods. Does Jumpstart have an alternate casting cost from the graveyard like Flashback, or is it more like Retrace?
You are casting the spell, but you're casting with Retrace also, so...
It's he's asking, is it the casting cost or isn't?
It's the same casting cost as the upfront side.
Okay, so if a spell costs 3 in a red, you just discard a card and you play 3 in a red.
Exactly.
There's no alternate
No
Jumpstart
alternate.
cost.
Yep, okay.
Other hoops to jump through.
Okay. Can you surveil targeting any player or just yourself?
Only you can surveil.
Okay. So you're just...
Think
you're
of it
just-
like Scry, which only you are doing, except instead of cards going on the bottom, they're going in the graveyard. Works the
Okay.
exact same way, rules-wise.
Okay. And then we had a question on Twitter from D. Long. See, I can't pronounce these. I can pronounce all the Ravnica words, but Twitter handles, not so much.
They're really tough.
Which guild do you identify with the most? Let's do this in 2 parts, as a player or as a person.
Okay, sure. So as a person, I would say is it, because I like to innovate on things, I guess. As a player, oh man, I like so many guilds. I really like is it. I also really like the way that Orzhov plays, like sacrificing creatures for value and stuff like that. It's too hard. I just love Magic.
Andrew, what about you?
Definitely as a player, I really love Dimir, just the blue and black cards. I really like having a lot of agency in games and just kind of the more spiky gameplay. That's definitely what I gravitate to as a player, but not necessarily as a designer.
Okay.
But as a person, I think very gravitate towards the Boros. It's all about what the law should be, and we all follow that. And justice.
I would say for myself, I'm going to go with Zorius on both. Okay. I like following the rules and making sure my opponent can't do anything. I'm really fun to play Magic with. I'm super fun to play Magic with. Grande Arbiter, Augustin.
You're so on time to every single meeting.
I am.
Makes so
I'm
much
always
sense.
the first person in the room, yeah. Let's see. Okay. I know you guys can't answer this, but I'm going to throw it up there. Are Shocklands in this set?
We can't answer that.
No, you can't answer that.
Thank you for your question.
Wait. So this is a question. This one's from Vengeance Author. That's cool. On Twitter. This one's for me, actually. Will we be getting an extra long spoiler season, or will it die off after this weekend until the normal time frame? I'm going to lay it all out for you. Here's how preview season's going to work. We are going to have preview cards this weekend at PAX. I was a little coy in the announcement article, but there are going to be preview cards at the PAX panel. So let me make sure I have the time and everything. If you're in town for PAX and you have the time, Saturday night, evening, 6:30 p.m. In Sasquatch Theater. So if you're at PAX, you'll be able to find Sasquatch Theater. We will have a panel. You're going to be on it.
I'll be on the panel.
Yay, so come see more terrible puns at the panel.
And also
amazing
sweet
puns.
Ravnica cards.
And also
Sweet
sweet
Ravnica
Ravnica cards. So
but
we will
mainly
be
puns.
previewing mainly puns. Come for the puns, stay for the preview cards. So we'll be previewing a bunch of cards there. If you cannot make it to PAX, which is probably most people on the planet because it's, we will just follow at Wizards_Magic on Twitter. And we will be live tweeting the entire panel, including preview cards. And there is that. I'm going to stop being coy. There will also be a couple preview cards just on Twitter from @WizardsMagic over the course of the weekend. After that, we are not publishing anything on our website on Monday. On Tuesday, we'll be showing off all the promo cards from the set. Which may or may not overlap with a lot of stuff from PAX Weekend. So if you miss PAX Weekend and you tune into Daily MTG on Tuesday, you'll mostly be able to catch up. After that, there will be one other sort of preview in there coming from a member of our community. Mike Linneman is going to be previewing some cool art or working with people to preview some art over the course of the weekend. And then things are on pause until we hit September 10th. So September 10th is the full-on kickoff of previews. We'll have them on Daily MTG. We'll have them at a bunch of third-party outlets. They'll be on social media. They'll be on websites. They'll be on streams. We're going to have a lot of people streaming this preview season and revealing cards that way from around the world. And then preview season will go up through the following Wednesday, the 19th, which is when the full card image gallery will be available. And that's the same day that we will actually have the loading ready run pre-release. So you'll get to see the set in action on the 19th as well. Exciting. So yeah, so that is what the entire season looks like. We have another question from Smallville Buffy. Mm-hmm. Will the Urza lands be in the block?
No.
Thank you for that. Let's see. From Flavorical on Twitter. Now that we know the new returning ratio for mechanics in Guilds of Ravnica, which is 1 returning, 4 new, is it safe to assume Ravnica Allegiance mechanics will have a similar ratio?
It's never safe to assume anything. Anything could happen.
Mm-hmm. In other words, none of your business.
Just wait.
Just wait.
Just wait.
It's only 3 months.
Patience.
Yeah. Not that much time.
Campaigner 80 asks, will drafting the other 5-color combos be feasible, or should one stay away from them?
I would definitely recommend staying away from them, given the amount of gold cards in the regular guilds of that set. So drafting a red-green deck in Guilds of Ravnica gonna be a little tough.
Liam MTG asks, what are the challenges of doing 5 guilds in one set? And we'll take that. He had 2 questions. We'll take that one first. What are the challenges of doing 5 guilds in one set?
As I was saying earlier about the 8 players in the draft and the 10 color pairs, I think one of the challenges is limited because it's like if there's only 5 guilds, 8 players are going to be fighting over 5 different decks. So we had to make sure that there are enough decks to go around for the 8 players and even more than 8 because we want to have a lot of depth in limited. So that's why it was really important for us to make sure that the mechanics played with each other nicely. And you'll also see most limited formats have this, but build-arounds that could go in either in any guild, right? So for example, a black build-around that could go in Golgari or Dimir and stuff like that.
Okay. And then they asked again, what's your favorite deck to draft in Limited?
5-color control.
Okay.
I have so many favorites.
Is it?
That
was a statement, not a question.
Well, my favorite draft format was triple block original Ravnica. I really like multicolored draft formats because you can just draft sweet lands and mana fixing and just take all the bomb rares. That was what I liked about it when I first started drafting. But I just like all the options you have when it's a multicolored format.
Definitely.
Sure.
You're always learning something new.
And the final question we have, and I just noticed the Twitter handle on this one. I enjoyed this question, but I didn't realize. So it's from @Meowsalot.
Okay.
That's the Twitter handle.
Okay.
Obligatory. Are there any cats
wow.
in this set?
Great name.
So we're not going to tell you the answer to that, but I will share a story. We were going over the PAX panel yesterday, and we were looking at some art, and someone in the back piped in and was like, should we zoom in on that cat? Everyone looked around and said, what cat are you talking about? And they zoomed in way up in the upper right-hand corner.
Of course there's a cat in there.
And there was just there was a boy fishing and a cat next to him, and it was... It tied into the art, but it was a little random, and we were, okay. So now, there's at least one cat in the art.
So now you guys have to figure out, what is this card?
Where is the cat?
What is the card with the boy fishing with a cat way in the background?
Good luck on that. All right, we are out of time. Thank you, Andrew and Melissa, for joining us and spilling some of the secrets from Guilds of Ravnica and keeping the rest to yourselves. After this, we've got Kenji Igashira coming up to play some MTG Arena. Make sure that you're following @Wizards_Magic this weekend, especially if you aren't able to make the PAX panel, to get all of the previews and all of the news that's going to be coming out of that panel, or just because we're good people and it's nice to chat with us sometimes. If you want to catch up on Weekly MTG, this show here, past shows, future shows, we're on both YouTube and iTunes. And we're going to be back next week for an announcement that I'm not going to talk about right now. It'll be a big show, but
An announcement of the announcement.
Announcement of the announcement. It's what we do. We're Wizards of the Coast. We let you know when we're going to let you know about letting you know stuff. So stick around for Kenji Igashira, and we'll see you on the internet. Thanks, everyone.